There's a force within you that can both destroy your life and elevate it to unimaginable heights. This force isn't your enemy, as society has taught you to believe. It's actually your greatest ally on the journey to success, fulfillment, and wholeness. But few men understand its true nature. When you feel that familiar pulse, that urgency rising from deep within, what's really happening? Most people will say it's just biology, mere animal instinct that needs to be satisfied or suppressed. But what if I told you that's just the surface of something infinitely more powerful? What if this energy you feel is, in fact, the same force that drives great leaders, builds empires, and sparks genius? Napoleon Hill, in his studies of the most successful men of his time, discovered something extraordinary. They all possessed one common trait, a highly developed sexual energy, but not in the way you might imagine. They had learned the secret of sexual transmutation, the art of channeling this vital force into achievements that transcend the physical. The process of sexual transmutation begins with a fundamental shift in perspective. Instead of seeing your sexual energy as a problem to be solved, you need to start seeing it as a resource to be cultivated. Every time you feel this energy rising, you're receiving a gift from the universe, pure fuel for your highest ambitions. But here's the crucial point. Transmutation doesn't happen automatically. It requires awareness, intention, and practice. When you feel sexual energy arising, instead of reacting automatically, whether through compulsive masturbation or rigid repression, you pause and ask yourself, how can I use this energy for something greater? The answer might be redirecting it to a creative project, to an intense workout, to deep meditation, to planning your goals, or to any activity that demands high concentration and energy. The important thing is that you're consciously choosing the destination of this force instead of allowing it to be wasted on momentary gratifications. When you begin to practice sexual transmutation, something extraordinary happens. Your overall energy increases dramatically. Your ability to concentrate multiplies. Your presence becomes more magnetic. Your confidence grows naturally. You discover you possess reserves of energy you didn't even know existed. This happens because sexual energy is, in fact, your concentrated life force. When you constantly waste it on momentary gratifications, you're literally draining your vitality. It's like having a powerful car and using all the fuel on unnecessary trips, leaving the tank empty when you really need to get somewhere important. Modern society has created an epidemic of energetically drained men. We live in a culture that promotes instant gratification, that constantly bombards us with sexual stimuli, and that teaches us that resisting these stimuli is repression. The result is a generation of men who live in a constant state of energetic depletion, always chasing the next dopamine hit, always feeling empty and dissatisfied. But there's a different path. There's the possibility of becoming master of your own energy, of transforming what was once a weakness into your greatest strength. Sexual transmutation isn't about denying your nature, it's about fulfilling it completely. When you observe your sexual energy with awareness, without judgment, you begin to notice patterns. You notice that certain situations, thoughts, or emotional states tend to awaken this energy. You realize that often what you interpret as sexual desire is, in fact, a disguised emotional need, perhaps an escape from anxiety, boredom, or loneliness. This awareness is the first step to freedom. When you understand the triggers that awaken your sexual energy, you can begin to work with them consciously. Instead of being a victim of automatic impulses, you become the director of your own experience. Sexual transmutation, unleashing your inner power. Sexual transmutation requires you to develop a clear vision of your goals and aspirations. After all, you can't redirect energy if you don't know where to direct it. You need a purpose that's bigger than your momentary impulses, something that inspires you to channel your life force into lasting achievements. Here's a crucial aspect few understand. Transmuted sexual energy not only boosts your capacity for achievement, it also enhances your attractiveness. When you're not constantly draining your energy on fleeting gratifications, you develop a kind of natural magnetism that attracts opportunities, people, and circumstances aligned with your goals. Napoleon Hill observed that highly successful men possessed a particular quality in their eyes, an intensity, a presence that commanded respect and admiration. This quality stemmed from transmuted sexual energy. It was as if they had access to a power source most people wasted without realizing it. You've probably noticed the difference in your own energy when you're in a period of higher sexual restraint versus when you're constantly indulging. During periods of restraint, your mind is clearer, your motivation is higher, your ability to focus deepens. This is no coincidence. It's direct evidence of the power of sexual transmutation. But here's where many men get lost. They confuse sexual transmutation with sexual repression. Repression is denying, suppressing, fighting against your nature. Transmutation is embracing, understanding, and redirecting your nature. The difference is fundamental. When you repress your sexual energy, you create tension, frustration, and eventually uncontrolled outbursts. When you transmute your sexual energy, you create power, focus, and lasting achievements. Repression is based on fear and guilt. Transmutation is based on awareness and purpose. To effectively practice sexual transmutation, you need to develop a different relationship with your energy. Instead of fearing or judging it, you learn to respect and honor it. You recognize that this energy is sacred. It's the force that brought you into existence and can lead you to your greatest achievements. When you feel sexual energy arising, you don't see it as a problem, but as an opportunity. It's as if the universe is handing you pure fuel for your dreams and ambitions. The question isn't whether you'll use this energy, but how you'll use it. If you're watching this video and feeling a resonance with these ideas, if something inside you is recognizing the truth of these words, then you're ready to begin your own journey of transmutation. And if you want to continue exploring these profound concepts that can transform your life, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. When you learn sexual transmutation, several extraordinary things begin to happen. First, your mind becomes clearer and more focused. The mental fog you didn't even realize existed begins to dissipate. Your thoughts become more organized, your ideas brighter, your ability to concentrate more intense. This happens because you've stopped draining the energy that fuels your brain and started channeling it towards higher mental processes. Second, your presence becomes more magnetic. People begin to notice something different about you, though they can't quite explain what it is. You develop a quality that psychologists call executive presence, an energy that naturally inspires confidence, respect, admiration. This isn't imagination. It's the direct result of transmuted sexual energy manifesting through your energy field. Third, your capacity for persistence and discipline multiplies exponentially. Tasks that once seemed impossible become exciting challenges. You develop a seemingly inexhaustible willpower, an ability to sustain effort that impresses even yourself. This happens because you've accessed the most powerful energy source within you and learned to direct it towards your goals. But here's what most people don't understand. Sexual transmutation isn't a one-time process. It's a daily discipline, an art you refine throughout your life. It's like learning to play a musical instrument. It requires constant practice, dedication, patience. But the results are proportional to the effort. Each day you practice sexual transmutation, you become stronger, more focused, more magnetic. The first step is developing awareness. You need to begin observing your sexual patterns without judgment, but with brutal honesty. When you feel the sexual urge, instead of automatically gratifying it, pause. Observe the sensation. Feel the energy in your body. Acknowledge its strength, its intensity, its power. This is the raw material of your transformation. The second step is learning to breathe with the energy instead of resisting it. When you feel the urge, instead of fighting it or immediately gratifying it, breathe deeply. Imagine you're breathing the energy into your heart, your mind, your goals. Visualize this energy transforming into mental clarity, willpower, creative power. The third step is conscious redirection. When you feel sexual energy building, instead of releasing it through physical gratification, direct it towards a creative or productive activity. Write, draw, exercise, work on an important project. Use this energy as fuel for actions that elevate your life instead of diminishing it. And now, a necessary pause in our journey. If you're resonating with these truths, if you're feeling that finally someone is talking about the secrets you always knew existed, then I need to make a request. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Not because I need the numbers, but because you need these truths.
Every video I publish is a fragment of wisdom that can transform your life, but only if you commit to being present, to receiving these teachings, to applying them. Your subscription is a commitment to your own evolution, a vote of confidence in your ability to transcend mediocrity and achieve the greatness that is your birthright. Returning to our journey of transmutation. The fourth step is the most challenging, but also the most powerful. You need to confront the shadows behind your sexual urges. Every sexual compulsion has an emotional root, a void it's trying to fill, a wound it's trying to heal. It could be loneliness, it could be insecurity, it could be a need for validation, it could be an escape from responsibility. You need to be courageous enough to look at these shadows and heal them at the root. This is the work of the inner warrior, not the warrior who fights external enemies, but the warrior who confronts internal demons. When you have the courage to look at your own shadows without judgment, when you can embrace your darkest parts with compassion, something magical happens. The energy that was trapped in those shadows is freed and becomes available for higher purposes. Many men fail at this step because they confuse integration with identification. They think that acknowledging their shadow selves means becoming their shadow selves. But the truth is the opposite. When you acknowledge your shadows, you become bigger than them. When you embrace your darker aspects consciously, you become capable of transforming them into light. The fifth step is to cultivate a purpose greater than yourself. Sexual energy, when it doesn't have a higher channel to flow through, naturally flows to the most basic channel, physical gratification. But when you have a purpose that ignites your soul, a goal that's bigger than your personal desires, sexual energy naturally channels itself into that purpose. It's like building a mountain. The energy that was previously scattered in all directions now concentrates on a single point, creating something majestic and enduring. The sixth step is to practice sublimation through art, creativity, and expression. All sexual energy is, at its core, creative energy. When you learn to express it through art, music, writing, dance, you're not repressing your sexuality, you're elevating it. You're allowing it to manifest in its most refined and beautiful form. But here's a truth that might shock you. Sexual transmutation isn't just about material success or external achievements. It's about becoming the man you were born to be. It's about integrating all parts of yourself, light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, power and humility, into a complete and authentic human being. When you master sexual transmutation, you don't become less of a man, you become more of a man. You don't lose your masculinity, you refine it. You don't deny your sexual nature, you elevate it. You become the kind of man that women respect, that men admire, that children look up to. You become a man of substance, of depth, of genuine power. But beware, this path isn't for the faint of heart. Sexual transmutation requires you to confront your deepest demons, to question your most basic beliefs, to challenge your most ingrained conditioning. There will be times when you're tested, times when your old patterns will try to resurface with full force. In those moments, you'll discover what you're truly made of. Nowdua doesn't want you to master your sexual energy. It wants you to remain a consumer, a follower, a slave to your impulses. Every time you resist the temptation to squander your sexual energy, you're declaring war against a system that profits from your weakness. Every time you transmute your sexual energy into creative power, you're becoming a threat to a world that needs weak men to function. The most powerful men in history understood this. They knew that controlling sexual energy was the first step to controlling anything. They knew that a man who can't control his most basic impulses will never control more complex ones. They knew that sexual discipline is the foundation upon which all other discipline is built. When you look at the great leaders, inventors, artists, and entrepreneurs of history, you can notice a pattern. They all possessed an almost supernatural intensity. They were able to work for hours without tiring, to maintain focus for days without distraction, to persist where others gave up. This intensity wasn't accidental. It was the direct result of transmuted sexual energy. Tesla, the great inventor, was known for his ability to work 18 hours a day without losing concentration. He had learned to channel his sexual energy into his inventions, and the result was creations that seemed to come from another world. Da Vinci, the universal genius, channeled his sexual energy into his artwork, his inventions, his scientific discoveries. The result was a creativity that seemed inexhaustible. These men weren't asexual. They were men who had learned to use their sexuality as fuel for greatness. They had discovered that sexual energy, when transmuted, becomes the most powerful force in the universe. And the universe, recognizing this force, began to conspire in their favor. Because here's the final secret. When you learn sexual transmutation, you're not just changing your personal life. You're aligning yourself with the creative forces of the universe. You're becoming a conscious collaborator in the great work of creation, and the universe always favors those who work in its favor, who use their energies to create instead of destroy, to elevate instead of diminish. But this requires a complete transformation of your identity. You can no longer see yourself as a man at the mercy of your impulses. You need to see yourself as the master of your own energy, the architect of your own experience, the creator of your own reality. This shift in identity is perhaps the most challenging aspect of sexual transmutation, but also the most liberating. When you truly understand that your sexual energy is sacred, that it's the same force that moves the stars and makes flowers grow, you can no longer casually squander it. You begin to treat it with the respect it deserves. You begin to consciously channel it into purposes that elevate not only you, but all of humanity. And here's a truth that can transform your life. Sexual transmutation isn't just about controlling sexual impulses. It's about learning transmutation in general, the ability to transform any negative energy into positive energy, any destructive impulse into constructive action, any low vibration emotion into a high vibration. When you master sexual transmutation, you develop a skill that can be applied to all areas of life. Anger can be transmuted into resolve. Fear can be transmuted into wise caution. Sadness can be transmuted into compassion. Anxiety can be transmuted into careful preparation. When you learn the art of transmutation, you become a life alchemist, capable of transforming any negative situation into an opportunity for growth. But let's return to the core issue. Why does the universe favor men with a desexualized mind? Because these men have become conscious collaborators in the great work of creation. They are no longer wasting energy on fleeting pleasures. They are using their energy to build, to create, to uplift. And the universe always supports those who work in harmony with its laws. When you transmute your sexual energy, you become a magnet for synchronicities, opportunities, people, and circumstances aligned with your highest goals. You begin to notice things flowing more easily, doors opening at the right time, the right people appearing in your life when you need them most. This is not coincidence. It's the natural result of being aligned with the creative forces of the universe. But beware of the ego in this process. It's easy to become arrogant when you begin to experience the benefits of sexual transmutation. It's easy to feel superior to other men who haven't yet discovered these secrets. But true mastery comes with humility, with compassion, with the recognition that we are all on different journeys of evolution. Use your power to serve, not to dominate. Use your energy to uplift, not to diminish. Use your strength to protect, not to attack. When you use the fruits of sexual transmutation for the greater good, you become a true leader, a man others naturally want to follow, not out of fear, but out of inspiration. And here's the ultimate promise. When you master sexual transmutation, you don't just transform your life. You become a catalyst for the transformation of others. Your presence becomes a healing force in the world. Your example becomes a beacon for other men who are lost in the darkness of compulsive gratification. You become a warrior of light, a guardian of truth, a messenger of transformation. But this begins with a choice you need to make now. Will you continue to be a slave to your impulses, or will you become the master of your energy? Will you continue to waste the power that could transform your life, or will you learn to consciously channel it? Will you remain just another man in the crowd of mediocre men, or will you join the small band of men who have discovered the secret of true power? The choice is yours. But know that once you know this truth, you can no longer pretend you don't. Once you see the connection between sexual energy and personal power, you can no longer innocently waste your energy. Ignorance is no longer an option. Now you only have two choices: evolve or stagnate. Transcend or remain. Awaken or continue sleeping. The universe awaits your decision. It is ready to favor you, to conspire in your favor, to open doors you didn't even know existed. But first, you need to prove you are worthy of this favor. You need to demonstrate that you can be trusted with real power. And that begins with mastering the most potent force within you, your sexual energy. May this be the dawn of a new era in your life. May this be the moment you cease being a victim of your impulses and become the architect of your destiny. May this be the day you awaken to the power that has always existed within you, waiting only to be recognized, honored, and transmuted into greatness. The inner warrior is calling. The alchemist is waiting. The creator is ready to emerge. The only question that remains is, are you ready to answer the call?